In the Northern Ireland conflict, which only ended in 1998 with the Good Friday Agreement, for decades there was a majority of Protestant supporters of the union with Great Britain and predominantly Catholic supporters of unification of the two parts of Ireland. The police and the British military were also drawn into the conflict. Some will complain about the religious part, but it will be explained in the video. More than 3,600 people died and almost 50,000 were injured. Society is still deeply divided. And in order not to jeopardize the peace of Good Friday, Northern Ireland remained in the EU internal market after Brexit. And that makes for explosives, especially among the pro-British unionists. The Shankill in East Belfast is not a pretty place. It's a stronghold of pro-British unionists. More than 200 mostly men formed up there with drums and whistles for a protest march. And one of them explained, "The Good Friday Agreement states that Northern Ireland is part of the United Kingdom, like England, Scotland or Wales. Since Brexit, however, other laws have applied to the Northern Irish. Our trade is governed by the EU, even though we are no longer in the EU. The new frontier is in the Irish Sea separates us from our mother country. This crossed a red line for us." Well, as you can hear, he's a loyal Brit. A British flag hangs in his bedroom and his family is celebrating the Queen's birthday. But with Brexit, this identity was stolen from him, in his opinion. There's a growing crowd of angry, frustrated young people here who are realizing they've been betrayed. This makes them angry. So far, they've been protesting peacefully, but who knows when the anger will turn. Well, peacefully, no, the buses, I say. A year ago, it became clear how quickly anger can turn to violence. Young unionists set fire to a bus and rioted with the police for several nights. Bombs will no longer be detonated in Belfast 24 years after the Good Friday Peace Accord, but tensions remain. In the capital, around 100 walls and fences still separate the residential areas of the two population groups. The school systems are more or less denominationally separated to this day. And if you want to better understand the old wounds that Brexit has reopened in Northern Ireland, the best place to visit is Martin McGill. Healing wounds is his job. The priest has known about the Northern Ireland conflict since childhood. The fact that buses are burning again in Northern Ireland shocks him. And he has his vicarage on Falls Road in Belfast, by the way. Northern Ireland is a wonderful country, but it's also a wounded country, he says. We are a wounded society, traumatized after decades of violence. As you walk through Belfast, you will see the traces of our violent past around every corner. The wall, the flags, the slogans on the walls. It's time to finally start healing, he says. Northern Ireland needs psychotherapy to finally put the past behind them, the priest says. Because a new generation is growing up in this country, young people. They don't need weapons, they need work and a better education system. They need perspective. Well, but what role does the church play in this conflict? Is it part of the healing, or is it still more of an excuse to mobilize their own community? He says the churches actually maintain their enemy images to this day. We should talk about denominational boundaries, about our social trauma, but we cannot do that, and it's time for the churches to admit that we are part of the problem. McGill knows what he's talking about. There is a Catholic and a Reformed church in his district. Both places of worship are 500 meters apart. They were already built in the 19th century. But for 140 years, the two communities would not exchange a word with each other. And to this day, he has not succeeded in bringing these people together. If you're looking for good news in Northern Ireland, you'll have to look hard. You will find what you're looking for is in the economy. Anyone importing goods from England has to fill out more forms because of the new customs border between Northern Ireland and mainland Britain. But trade across the open border to the south of the Irish island is busier than ever. According to the Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce, the volume of trade increased by a good 60% in 2021. One who is benefiting from this growth is Gavin Killeen. The 52-year-old entrepreneur is the owner of Newprint. This prints labels for the food sector. He says, "We supply companies all over the island of Ireland, but also some companies in Great Britain. Our customers include the well-known Bushmills whiskey, but also Monster energy drinks and producers of ready-to-eat meals. Like the majority of Northern Ireland, Gavin voted against Brexit. But the Northern Ireland Protocol is proving to be a win. Business with mainland Britain has not suffered, and exports from his print shop to the Republic of Ireland have increased by 30% since Brexit. Northern Ireland has been given a unique place thanks to the Northern Ireland Protocol, he says. We benefit from the best of both worlds. We have remained part of the European single market and at the same time belong to the United Kingdom. We have access to both markets with almost no barriers, he says. Brexit has paralyzed the country for too long. Let's finally close this unspeakable chapter and turn to the real problems, dealing with the consequences of the pandemic and ending the war in Ukraine. Katie Harewood can judge whether this chapter can be closed so easily. Nobody knows the political tectonics of Northern Ireland and their upheavals better than she does. Harewood is Professor of Political Sociology at Queen's University in Belfast. However, her loss recording is sobering. Brexit has massively shaken political stability in Northern Ireland. The Good Friday Peace Agreement will only last if the negotiated balance between the various actors remains in balance. That is, the relationship between the south and the north of the island, but also between the Unionists and the Republicans. Today, we have to realize that Brexit is fundamentally straining these relationships. Interestingly, support for the protocol in Northern Ireland has increased slightly in recent months. Perhaps because people would look across the Irish Sea and see the impact of Brexit in the UK, supply difficulties and bureaucratic hurdles for the export industry. Northern Ireland does not suffer from these problems. But what we find in our polls is a huge distrust of the British government in London. Just 4% of Northern Irish respondents, whether Unionist or Republican, believe the government genuinely looks after the interests of Northern Ireland, says Harewood. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss has been responsible for implementing the Northern Ireland Protocol for several months. That's Pickens, says the sociologist. After all, Northern Ireland is part of the kingdom. The High Wire Act, which is more important to the British government, Brexit or Northern Ireland, will require a lot of sensitivity from London, says Harewood. So far, the Prime Minister has not shown any particular sensitivity. Boris Johnson has been in Northern Ireland exactly once since his election at the end of 2019, for 3 hours. This disinterest is an affront not just for pro-British Unionists. For the smooth implementation of Brexit, the Northern Irish would have to be able to answer 3 questions with yes, said British Prime Minister Boris Johnson during a visit to the Irish island in 2019. Can we ensure that goods, people and animals can continue to circulate freely between the UK and Northern Ireland? The answer is yes. Within the UK there will never be borders with checks. Can we keep every detail of the Good Friday Agreement? Again, the answer is yes. My administration's commitment to the peace process is unwavering. And can we protect the economic integrity of the island of Ireland and the gains Ireland has made through its membership of the EU single market? And here too the answer is yes. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has once again promised too much. He now describes the Northern Ireland Protocol, which he personally signed 2 years ago, as useless. The protocol that was drawn up to protect the peace now threatens to divide society again. In particular, it feeds the unionist fear of being cut off from the mother country. According to representative surveys, the economy alone is currently meeting public expectations, not only in terms of growth, but also in terms of trustworthiness. This may be due to the fact that the arguments are not ideological but based on facts and experience, says Harewood. However, the economic upswing is triggering mixed feelings. The fact that Northern Ireland is benefiting from Brexit gives some hope and others fear. For the Unionists, the customs border in the Irish Sea was created on purpose to divert trade to the Irish Republic and to decouple Northern Ireland even more from their beloved mother country. For many Republicans, on the other hand, the economic rapprochement between Northern Ireland and the south of the island nourishes the hope of a united Ireland. And this hope is not entirely unfounded. Polls now show a narrow majority for reunification of Northern Ireland with the rest of Ireland. The battle for Brexit is over, but the battle for reunification may have yet to begin. And with the battle for Brexit is over, I mean the decision was made in 2016. But Brexit is not over yet. And the talks about reunification, we are facing elections in Northern Ireland soon, and which will be very interesting for especially for me, for someone from seeing it from the outside. And the consequences of Brexit will show their ugly faces once all the distractions from this are gone. And I don't mean it with the word distraction, I don't mean it downplaying a war or the pandemic, but this is all covering up the real consequences of Brexit. And only then we will see in a full picture how big the damage is. And there's also the further discussion on the Scottish independence and so on. So Brexit is causing a lot that will have effect in the future. And we have a lot to talk about in the next years, I'm sure about that. And I'll see you in my next video. Bis gleich.